Hey guys, it's Adrian BHA here, bringing you a new product review video. So the great folks over at Zemismart, of course, sent me some more cool gear to review. And I've been trying to limit myself on the number of product review videos I'm doing each month, so this will be the only one you see here in December. But this is specifically a Zemismart Wi-Fi door window sensor. Pretty cool little product. It runs about 15 bucks here on the Zemismart page. But I thought it'd be a cool product to check out, see if we can't get Tasmota running on it and stuff like that, kind of how we've done with some of our other products. So let's give it a shot. All right, so here it is on AliExpress as well. It's a Wi-Fi enabled door sensor, so it's a little bit different than your standard Z-Wave or Zigbee sensors that you might use with smart home products, or even RF sensors that you can use with an RF bridge of sorts. So let's do a quick run through everything we're going to cover in this video. So of course, for starters, we're going to, of course, unbox the device. Once we do that, then we're going to go through flashing it with Tasmota custom firmware. We will be using TuyaConvert to give this a shot. If everything goes well and we are able to get it flashed, then of course we are going to configure our Tasmota custom firmware. Once that's done, then we are ready to add it into Home Assistant. And lastly, of course, I'm going to show you what that looks like in action. So let's get started. All right, so here we are. It comes in a small little box, has all the product details listed there on the back. And of course, if you use the Tuyamcu Life app, you can then, of course, connect it straight in with Amazon Echo or a Google Home. Inside the box, it comes with your double stick tape so that you can stick the sensor to whatever door or window you need to use it with. It also comes with screws if you choose to go that route instead. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a little bit bigger than most of the door window sensors that I've seen. I have several other sensors that I use that are Z-Wave around my house, and they are probably about half the size of this one. Some of the difference will be that this runs on AAA batteries, so it will take two AAA batteries, whereas the other sensors that I have, I think, run on like those round CR2032s or 2025s, something like that. So this one a little bit different. It also comes with the instructions on how to get it added into the Tuyamcu Life app. Again, we're going to attempt to load this with Tasmota, so we won't need these. But once you go through all that, we're ready to move on to that next step. All right, so in order to flash it with our custom firmware, we'll be using a Raspberry Pi 3 running TuyaConvert software. And there is a little downside to this. I call it a downside, you call it what you want. This thing goes into deep sleep mode whenever it is not being used, mainly for battery conservation and stuff like that. But in order to keep this thing online so that you can flash it with firmware and connect to the interface and everything, you have to open and close the contact every few seconds in order for it to stay online. There is an alternative to that. If you don't want to do it that way, you can open it up and solder wires onto the board itself and then hook it up to a USB to serial adapter. I felt like overall this was still probably the easiest way to go. So this is how I chose to do it. So of course, again, you're going to go through all the steps of doing TuyaConvert while you're opening and closing the contact, because again, it has to stay online for this to work at all. I'm not going to lie to you, it took me several tries to get this going. But of course, as you can see here, eventually it did start working and I was able to flash it with Tasmota firmware. Once it gets down to the end, last thing we need to do is copy this curl command out the end and paste it down here. And it should complete the flash, and then we'll need to restart for it to finish. Once that's done, we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, so configuring this with Tasmota. It took me a little bit of research to try to figure out the best way to do this. I found several different forums, and I will have the links in the description down below, that went over how they got them configured in Tasmota firmware. I could not get any of those configs to work, so I kind of had to create my own. Mainly what I want to be able to do with this is I want this, every time that this opens or closes, it's going to send an mqtt topic update to a specific topic that I can monitor within Home Assistant, and then I'll have an open and close window sensor. So again, while I'm opening, closing the contact, because this thing has to stay online for me to be able to change the configuration settings and everything. But everything I did with this, I did inside the console of Tasmota. For starters, I went ahead and set it to module 54. This is the Tuyamcu module, and that's what is being used with this particular device. Once we did that, we set the second command to be Tuyamcu 51,21. And again, I'll have all of these in the description below, so you can just copy and paste them and use them as you need. The next command that we did was backlog set option 1 to 1, set option 65 to 1, set option 66 to 1, and then of course switch mode 1. And then you can actually do Tuyamcu to check the status of what it's currently set to. It should come back and show you FNID 11 is set to DPID 1, and FNID 51 is set to DPID 21. Assuming that all that does, the next part I kind of had to figure out on my own. So I needed to create a rule that, like I said, every time this opens or closes, it's going to update my mqtt topic. Because by default, it doesn't do anything. So what I did is I monitored it for a minute, and this is what I saw in the mqtt topic for this particular device. Every time it opened, it would send this data here ending in 71, and then every time it closed, I would see it send this data here ending in 70. So I could use this to create my rule. As you can see here, I did not get this recorded properly, so I'm having to kind of make do with just showing you what I did. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good copy of me actually performing this in the console. But this is exactly what I put in. I copied this in here and I pasted it into my console, and it works like a charm. Every time the contact is opened, it sends this data here, which then tells me to publish open to my mqtt command. And then every time this data is sent, it will publish close to the command, just like we want. So paste that into the console, reboot that device one last time, and then we should be ready to go. And let's move on to that next step. All right, so since we're only worried about opening and closing, we really don't need any other sensor other than a mqtt binary sensor. And that's what we're going to use here. So I'm going to edit my binary sensor.yaml file. We'll find an open spot down here at the bottom. The platform, of course, will be mqtt. For the state topic, this is going to be the one that I created in that rule that I just got done showing you. So it's stat for state /LR _ window1, because this is going to my living room, /status. The name, of course, again, it's going in my living room, so I'm calling it Livingroom Window 1. Now for payload on, it's going to be open, and payload off is going to be close. And that's exactly the commands that I sent in that rule that I showed you just a few minutes ago. For the device class, I'm going to go ahead and set it to Windows so that it'll pull in the right icon and everything in Home Assistant. Once we have all that in there, we can go ahead and save it. And then we're going to jump over to configuration. We'll do a check config just to make sure everything looks good, and restart Home Assistant for our new changes to take effect. We'll give that a second to come back up, and we'll go ahead and move on to that last step. All right, so here we are in the bottom corner. As you can see here, I have a little excerpt from my Home Assistant web front end that shows the living room window sensor that I just created. It currently says closed. And of course, as you can see in the picture there, that the contacts are actually closed at this point. We're going to go ahead and open them. I'm not sure if you noticed this or not, but it is a bit of a delay. This is kind of a downside, but basically what happens is, since this thing is in deep sleep, it's going to, as soon as you open it, it comes online, takes it a couple of seconds, connects to the Wi-Fi network, then sends out the topic and updates the mqtt topic and everything with that new update. So all in all, it takes about 7 seconds for it to update when it's coming from a deep sleep. So probably wouldn't want to use this in a high profile area where you're going to be using it in a door or something like that. I'm putting mine on a window, so I'm okay with a little bit of a delay as far as, if it doesn't immediately tell me when the window is open, because my windows are normally locked anyway. It's just more of a precautionary deal. It's only when it's coming out of that deep sleep that it's not going to work very quickly. So kind of a downside on that one. Certainly Z-Wave and Zigbee sensors have a much quicker response time, so I'm kind of disappointed on that. Not necessarily surprised, being what it is. But that's pretty much the end of the video, guys. So, $15 or so gets you a sensor. If you're okay with it having a little bit of a delay on the response time, then it's great. I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, it functions as I would expect it to. And it's possible down the road that we will get some better options in Tasmota to get a better response time out of it. But I have a feeling that you're not going to get much faster without just draining the battery and having to change batteries all the time. But there it is. If nothing else, you definitely need to check out Zemismart's website. They have tons of other products that are on there. I mean, all kinds of smart gear, tons of stuff worth checking out. Maybe the sensors aren't for you, but they have lots of other stuff. I guarantee you'll find something that you're interested in. Let's do a quick run through of everything we covered in this video. So for starters, of course, we unboxed the device. Once we did that, then of course we flashed with Tasmota custom firmware. Once we got it flashed and everything, then we were ready to configure our Tasmota firmware. Once it was configured and ready to go, we got it added into Home Assistant. And lastly, of course, I showed you what that looked like in action. That's the end of the video, guys. Again, one other thing I wanted to note is I wanted to thank those that have donated to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Every little bit helps, keeps me going on this venture of posting these videos for you guys. And if you guys are feeling up to it, definitely hit that link. It's in my description below. Buy me a coffee or two. It is very greatly appreciated. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments below. As always, if there are any videos out there that you would like to see that I don't already have out here, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can't get something put together for you guys. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around. Thanks.